Broadcasting from the Bayou State and all around the Gulf Coast and streaming nationwide. This is the C.L. Bryant Show.
Good evening once again, folks, on a Thursday, as I call it, the gateway to the weekend. I'm C.L. Bryant, and this is the C.L. Bryant Show, and I want to thank each and every one of you for coming along with us on this great American journey, wherever you may be listening to the show, streaming nationwide throughout the greatest nation on the face of the earth, the greatest success story the world has ever known, and that is America. And special shout-outs to you folks in North Carolina, Southern Arkansas, and East Texas. Thank you, and to all of the C.L. Bryant Show sponsors, you're special folks. And folks, when you hear those sponsors, make note of them. When you visit them, you certainly do support this show. Thank you so much for all of that. Well, hey, guess what legendary magazine is just signed its own going out of business document, let us say. Let's guess what legendary magazine has just decided with one cover that is putting itself out of business. Oh, it's Time Magazine. Oh, yeah, they have a cartoon character-like figure over the White House, and part of the White House is painted in red. Don't buy it. Download it. Google it. Look at it. Not buying it again. I'm never buying another Time magazine. Not doing it. Kids may go buy it, but I'm not going to buy it, especially if I make the cover. The kids may go buy it, but I'm not buying one. I'm never buying another Time magazine. They can go out of business. The liberals will try to keep them in business, but they have just shown who they are, as though they haven't been showing who they are for the last, 35, 40 years, 50 years. Well, they've been around a long time. Time magazine has. So it will make you mad. It'll boil your blood. There's no doubt about it. I have a feeling that many times these New York moguls, magazines like Time magazine, they forget that real Americans don't. The real Americans. If you live in New York City, you are so divorced from real America, flyover country as they call us. You're so divorced from it. Your lifestyle is so different that you forget that we don't go along with that kind of stuff. That may play in New York City. That plays in Los Angeles really well, I'm sure. May even play in, I don't know, Dallas. I don't know. May play in Dallas. Yeah. Seattle? Sure it does. But not in the rest of the country. Not in Joe and Jane America. It doesn't play in CL's America. Not buying another Time magazine. That settles it for me. Hey, real Americans, Google it, see it for what it is, and move on. I also want to thank, today, I want to thank publicly the Progressive Liberal Democrat Party. I want to thank them because after seeing the president on stage today with the Colombian President Santos, and seeing how subdued he was, how businesslike he was, I want to thank the progressive liberals for they have caused a business-minded president to refocus on American business. And just maybe he'll stop tweeting as much as he has been tweeting. Just maybe he will. As long as they're subdued and he spells everything right, they'll be just fine. But today, I think we saw the effects of heavy artillery and a person who has survived heavy shelling in a time of war in our president today. And I want to thank the progressive liberals for making the refocusing on American business, American problems, more clear to the President of the United States, Donald James Trump. And I do believe that he will emerge from this foolishness that is going on much stronger, much better, and more effective as a president because of the progressive liberals. Also, if for some reason Hillary Clinton finds herself getting indicted, she can thank the progressive liberal Democrats as well, because this president had basically decided to leave her, Susan Rice, and President Obama. He had wanted to leave them alone. But I have a pretty good insight into this man, and I think they have done themselves harm in more ways than they can ever imagine. And Hillary, if you find yourself indicted after all, you can thank the progressive liberals. You can thank your own party, the party of Bill Clinton, the once renowned first black president of the United States. You can thank them that you will find yourself, along with Susan Rice, indicted. And where does that trail lead? It will lead to Barack Obama, who had to sign off on Hillary's selling off all that uranium to the Russians, and her former right hand, John Podesta, having stock in Russian companies. Nobody ever talked about it, but thank you, Democrats, because now we will talk about it. I'll be back. CL, back with you on this Thursday, the gateway to the weekend. Yeah, tomorrow's Friday. Looks like we might have made it through another one, good Lord willing. Folks, this week is Police Memorial Week, where we commemorate the fallen men and women in blue, that thin blue line, who cause us and allow us to sleep peacefully in our beds at night. And we have had on Sheriff Prater, we've had on Sheriff Whittington, and I saved the best for last. My sheriff down in the great parish of DeSoto Parish. I met him about 17 years ago down at our old home place there. Family's been on it for 150 years. Tall, lanky guy comes walking up on the property there. Didn't know him, hadn't met him at the time, but since then we've become very good friends, and we do respect each other's positions in the community. I want to bring aboard again, he's a regular on the show, Sheriff Rodney Arbuckle. How are you, friend?
I'm great, CL. After I got rid of that kidney stone a couple of days ago, I think I've died and went to heaven.
Man, they can be painful. Drink water. Drink water, Sheriff.
I understand.
Well, Rodney, I want to talk to you, first of all, about this week that we're commemorating here. Tell the folks that why this is important to remember those who have fallen on that thin blue line.
Well, you know, it's so many people that have put their lives on the line for them, for this country, for what this country represents. And, you know, a lot of the killings that you see are so senseless, it just really blows your mind. And last year, I was very fortunate enough to get to go out to D.C. to the Law Enforcement Officers Memorial and see some of the services and some of the things that was done for the fallen officers. And I just tell you, if it don't bring a tear to your eye, and not even know these people and may not even know all the officers, you know, and it's just a very humbling, a very touching experience. And I mean, you don't have to have an officer that you personally know that's fallen. So, you know, anybody that ever out there or gets the chance to go, I would encourage that so much.
Absolutely, folks. If you have not been there, it is an absolutely moving tribute. Sheriff Arbuckle, I asked the other two sheriffs this week this question, and I want to ask this question to you. When Rodney Arbuckle thinks and says the words law and order, I want to know from you what that means to you, Sheriff, because it means certain different things to others, to many people. But when Rodney Arbuckle says that we need law and order and that I stand for law and order, what are you saying to us?
Well, you know, when you talk about law and you talk about order, basically, you know, we as law enforcement, we do not make the laws. The laws are made by the legislation. They're made by the city councils. They're made by the people that have been elected. And, you know, a lot of times, even as law enforcement, we don't always agree with the laws that are being made, just like a lot of the citizens don't agree with some of the laws. And, you know, the laws can be changed. They can be done away with, you know, through your legislative process. But, you know, that's the law. And then you have order, and that's where I think we come into it. We're the ones that try to put some sort of order to these laws, whether it be, you know, by arresting someone, or maybe by just giving someone a warning, or maybe just calling somebody and saying, look, you know, this ain't what we need to do. And, you know, by having order, it really makes your communities, your cities, your parishes, your nation a place that people can live and raise their families and not have to fear from, you know, people that are out there to do evil things and people that want to harm people and people that want to steal your property. So that's where the law, you know, again, we don't make the law. We try to enforce the law and bring order to it.
Right. Thank you for that, Sheriff. Now, earlier today, you and I were just talking, and you mentioned that in many communities you have older people. In fact, a lot of these older people have actually built their communities, and now they've grown old, they're in their houses, and they can't move, they can't go anywhere. Are you seeing that many of them may be trapped in their houses? A lot of them are trapped in that community with crime sometimes all around them. Do we understand just the price that some of these older people are paying? What do you say
You
about
know, CL, what is so sad and so troubling to me is in some of our communities, our older people have come into a neighborhood and maybe some young thugs, gangs, call them what you want, people that don't obey the law, those that need order brought to them. They move into these neighborhoods, and the old people, you know, they will call and we'll come out and try to do it. And, you know, even law enforcement, you may get criticized for coming in there and aggressively enforcing the law in the neighborhoods. But just like I've told some people when they came with complaints to me, I said, you're not the person that's having to listen to a 70-year-old person tell me, Mr. Arbuckle, Sheriff Arbuckle, Rodney, look, you just don't know what it's like. I can't even, you know, I don't have enough money to run my air conditioner. I may not even have an air conditioner. So it's very important on a July or August night that we raise our windows, turn our fans on. But we're scared to do that because, you know, of the environment that we live in. They'll steal everything we got, not to even be worried about that they may break in and harm us. You know, we're, you know, used to, we all know when I was growing up, we didn't have air conditioning. That was a big thing. You sat out on the porch, you know, until the weather cooled down where you could actually go to sleep. And, you know, they're prisoners in their own home. And, you know, I guarantee you that, you know, if I get a call in neighborhoods, whether it offends somebody or not, we're going to come in them neighborhoods and aggressively patrol in that area and try to get it where these people at least feel safe being able to sit on their porches or in their own home.
Well, Sheriff, I really like that. I really like the answer that you gave to that, and I certainly hope, folks, you're able to see it. We're on with Sheriff Rodney Arbuckle, the High Sheriff of DeSoto Parish. We're going to be back with him after the break. There's a little bit more that I want to talk to him about police, sheriff recruiting and recruiting to the DeSoto Parish Sheriff's Office. He's the one that can tell you all about it. Sheriff Rodney Arbuckle, DeSoto Parish, when I return.
Watching for the snow. I've been thinking lately of what I'm missing in the city. And I'm not missing a thing. Watching the full moon crossing the range.
CL back with you on this Thursday here in the jeweled cities of the Arklatex. We have been on and are on with Sheriff Rodney Arbuckle, High Sheriff of DeSoto Parish, and my friend. I'm proud to claim you've done a fantastic job down there in DeSoto Parish. We were talking about Sheriff. I talked to Prater about recruiting here in Caddo Parish, and he was saying that sometimes it can be difficult. Talked to Whittington, and he said that it is not as difficult in Bossier City. What's recruiting like down in DeSoto Parish to replenish the force and the sheriff's department down there?
CL, we are so fortunate now with this Haynesville shell that we have increased our salaries and benefits up. That we actually turn away good qualified candidates just because we don't have a place to put them. We don't advertise. We don't do anything. We have word of mouth. I mean, we hire people from here in the parish. We hire some people from Caddo, Natchitoches, and the word of mouth, they go back. And we really are very fortunate. We're just bombarded with applications, and it's a good problem to have. And I'll tell you a little joke. One of the assistant chiefs from Shreveport, we were sitting there at a graduation one day, and she said, "Sheriff, what you doing up here?" I said, "I'm trying to see which ones do good that y'all trained up here for y'all's department where I could steal them from you." And she fell out laughing about it, and she said, "I figured you was doing something like that." And I said, "Look, I'm just paying you back for when you used to get them from me." And that was kind of the phase that we went through. We would train them. And, I'll be honest with you, I've never tried to turn anybody down that could go and make more money or better themselves. I'm always going to give them a recommendation.
Right.
But the tide had kind of turned, and now, we're getting some of these people. I mean, I've hired Shreveport police officers that are sergeant with Shreveport that's willing to come leave their position as a sergeant and come to DeSoto Parish as a deputy sheriff, and we're able to, match that money and or actually pay a little bit more than what they were making as a sergeant as a deputy, because I give them credit for years of experience when someone comes from another department, because, like I tell people all the time, you pay for what you get,
Yes, you do. You absolutely do. Quality is that way. So funding is not a difficulty anymore. I remember when funding was a huge difficulty in DeSoto Parish. So the funds are holding out, and the Haynesville shale is one of those things that was a windfall, a blessing to us. Is that right?
Well, I came from an oil field background before I got into law enforcement, and oil field is always feast or famine. And when I first came in, there was a lot of times, you got on your knees praying to the good Lord to give you wisdom to make the gravy go a little further.
Yeah.
And with that, and the Haynesville shell came in, and we've been fortunate enough. We've been able to put up probably over $40-something million back in our excess revenue. And I'm of the firm believer, I try to run the taxpayers' money just like I do at my home.
Yeah.
Because just because you got it don't mean you have to spend it. And at some point in time, I'll be gone from the sheriff's department here, and I want to leave that department in a whole lot better shape than I found it for the young man or young woman or whoever it may be that replaces me, and not make them have to go through some of the things we went through, sweating your budgets, But I also want them to understand that that's probably one-time money. And that one-time money, once it's gone, it may never come back.
Yeah.
And, I know even in my last election, my opponent says, well, you ought to get rid of the taxes and spend all that money down to nothing and then put the taxes back. Well, I disagreed with that, and my issue was, no, put this money into this account, let it try to, if our interest ever gets up, let it start generating money, and then adjust your taxes to this reoccurring revenue off this excess revenue that we have at that time, and then do that. Because I'm telling you, you never know in our line of work when you could have a natural disaster, you could just have anything that would,
Yeah.
cause you to have to spend a couple, $2 or $3 million. A tornado comes through the
Yeah.
parish and damages your vehicle. We got money that we can go buy, and we can put the service right back to the people. And, apparently that was one of the things that the people agreed when we had a different philosophy about how to use the money, that, they agreed with me overwhelmingly.
And I'm glad that they did, and I'm really glad that you have the servant's heart that you have had over these 17 years in serving DeSoto Parish. And, I know that you will leave that office, whatever you decide to go and do here, Rodney Arbuckle. I know you're going to leave it better. And, folks, let me tell you something. Whatever he decides to do from this point on, I think we'll have a great public servant doing it. Sheriff Arbuckle, I want to thank you for being on with me. It's been too long. Got to have you on more often.
Hey, it's great. I always enjoy coming to your show, and tell the wife I said hi.
I certainly will. God bless and keep you. Tell yours as well.
Thank you. See ya.
I'll be back in just a little bit, but when we come back, I'm going to be on with Dr. Marlene McMillan. She was on with me earlier in the week. Your response to her was absolutely incredible, and I decided to bring her back here on Thursday. And I want to say this to you. Don't miss tomorrow's show. Oh, yeah, it's going to be controversial. It's just going to be you and me tomorrow. I want to talk to you. It's going to be you and me tomorrow. Now, I have to make a trip out to West Virginia over the weekend to talk to some people about regulations and how they're running rampant. West Virginia is one of the poorest states in the Union. And the people there, I'm telling you, they are being stepped on by regulations. And they're being stepped on by people who don't have a servant's heart toward the people. You just heard Sheriff Rodney Arbuckle. That is a man that has a servant's heart toward the people. But the people in West Virginia, hey, I'm telling you, it's not like that up there. I'll be back. We'll talk more about it when I return. I'm CL.
Black cat do. And two bodies lay in a naked.
Broadcasting from the Bayou State and all around the Gulf Coast and streaming nationwide. This is the C.L. Bryant Show.
It is I, your native son, CL, back with you on this Thursday, gateway to the weekend. And hey, you know what? It's just about holiday season beginning to kick off here for the summer. Memorial Day is coming up, and don't forget this is Memorial Week for fallen officers, protecting that thin blue line between the bad guys, the good guys, between those who want to do you harm and those who want to do you good. Yes, there's a thin blue line, and as I say often on this show, if you sleep peacefully in your homes at night, you must know this, that there are the guardians of the community that are out there in deep nights who are seeing the underbelly of society so that you and your family, your kids, can sleep peacefully in your beds at night. Support them. Support them and honor those who have paid the ultimate price for your safety, especially in the line of duty. Now, when we look at our nation, falling into the grips of anarchy, from the political ivory towers down to the street level, burning buildings on college campuses and people busting out windows, where you see our nation in the grips of anarchy, and you see social engineers like George Soros who fund this type of anarchy that goes on in this country. You have to ask this question, and be sure to tune in tomorrow's show, because I want to talk to you. There are some things that we must talk about, and I want you to marinate in some of these things as you go through your weekend. Talk about them with other people as well. Then meet me back here on Monday night, and we'll get together again. I'll take some of your calls. In fact, take some calls now if you want to talk. 320-5335. I have Dr. McMillan coming up after this segment. And then later on the show, I have Raymond Cruz, the newly elected and duly seated representative to the Louisiana House of Representatives there in Baton Rouge from District 8, Bossier City. Now, how does a person govern? A president, let's say, a governor, a mayor, how do they govern if they are surrounded by people they can't trust? Huh? How does that happen? How do they govern? Folks, there's a simple solution to a person who achieves office that you don't like. Vote them out. In 4 years, if this president falls flat on his face, if he does something that is unbecoming, and he has not committed high crimes and misdemeanors, which he has not, at least there's no evidence of it. There is not one, to use an Obama word, smidgen of evidence that he has committed any high crime or misdemeanor whatsoever. And as far as his taxes are concerned, the man is audited every year by the IRS. Don't you think that as much as he's under siege right now, that the IRS, if they had anything to reveal to you about his business practices or him not paying taxes, you'd know about it. Don't you think that? Of course, that would be the case. But my question has been this: how can anybody, how can a mayor, how can a governor, a school board superintendent, a sheriff, police chief, a president, how can they even try and govern if they are surrounded by people they can't trust? The office of president should be able to trust the people who serve this nation. And those are elected officials who are sent there to take care of business, not to try and bring down a president of the United States. You may say, well, Barack Obama was under siege. His policies were under siege, not the man. And even his policies being under siege, he got exactly what he wanted to get. That's why we're in this mess. He got exactly what he wanted. This president is being blocked on every hand by federal judges, using the same methods that Obama used to get what he wanted. We don't send people to office to try to bring down presidents unless they have committed high crimes and misdemeanors. And this president, by any accounts, has not done any of that. And so I ask you pray for him as he goes out of this country into the Middle East. Going to be visiting with our most trusted ally in the Middle East, Russia. Not Russia. Oh, my. Got Russia on the brain. Israel. God, how could I say that? How could I have said that? That's not even Freudian. That's lunacy. I need sleep. But anyway, he's going to be visiting with Russia, with Israel, when he leaves here. And I hope that he and Prime Minister Netanyahu will be the kind of friends that President Obama could never have been to our closest ally in the Middle East, and that is Israel. I hope that our bond will be so tight and strengthened when President Trump leaves there that we can't possibly, either one of us, fall down because we're so shoulder to shoulder. But again, I do solicit your prayers for the President of the United States, who I've met on several occasions now. And to tell you the truth, he too has a servant's heart, because he certainly doesn't have to do this. The stuff that he's putting up with, he had, like the BP exec said one time, I'll say this for this president. He had a great life. He has a great life. He doesn't. Why he did it? It's because he truly wants to try and make America great again, saving it from those who would see it crumble at the feet of progressive social agendas. Back with Dr. Marlene McMillan. When I return, I'm CL. CL, back with you on this gateway to the weekend, Thursday. Yeah, it is a beautiful day in May here in the jeweled cities of the Arklatex, and we are streaming nationwide throughout the fruited plains of the greatest nation on the face of the earth, the greatest success story the world has ever known, and that is America. Folks, earlier in the week, I had on a fresh face on the C.L. Bryant Show. She came on right after, you'll remember her, right after the Alan West interview that we did on Monday. And I have to tell you something. Her presentation and the way she presented herself, she's back. She's back by popular demand. She is a minister of, she has a Master of Divinity and a Doctor of Ministry from Tyndale College, there, Tyndale Theological Seminary, there in Texas. And I want to thank Dr. Marlene McMillan for being back with me this evening. Thank you so much, Doctor, for being there. And hey, welcome back. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. It's an absolute joy to be here.
Well, thank you. You shared so many jewels and nuggets with us that we just had to have you back. I wanted to make sure that everybody got another dose of what you had to say. Now, Doctor, before we get into this, give everyone your website, how they can get a hold of you if they want you for speaking engagements, so forth. Tell them how to do that.
Well, I might give them more than they bargained for. When I come to speak, I shake things up.
I know you do.
I do. They can go to whylibertymatters.com. That's WHYlibertymatters.com.
Whylibertymatters.com. You can get a hold of Dr. Marlene McMillan, and folks, I personally recommend her. You were saying to us the last time that we were on, and I want our folks to hear this. Folks, tune your ears right now. You are a pioneer in homeschooling. Your 7 children, you homeschooled them. And you said something that has been on my mind ever since you said it, and that is people today who are homeschooling their children may not be aware that progressive liberalism is actually sneaking into their home anyway. Explain to us what you meant by that.
Well, your curriculum is made up of 2 parts. It's made up of the content, meaning the subject matter, and the methodology. Now, many times we think that we just look at content, and if the facts are there, that's all we need. But the methodology is a way of training someone in how to think. So if they are training their children in this thing called the dialectic process, this way that social engineers change cultures, then even if the book says Christian, says freedom, America, it has all these wonderful words that look like this is just a great textbook. It might even have scriptures and beautiful illustrations. But if it uses the methodology of Marxism, then what that unknowing parent is doing is raising a good little Marxist.
Wow.
So,
and it's called the dialectic process. It's actually, you used an example of saying the word free. You said free speech as compared to freedom of speech. Describe to us the difference.
Okay. See, the dialectic is built on the idea of redefining words. And when you redefine your words, you redefine the way you think. So many times the distinctions are quite subtle. I mean, isn't that what deception is all about?
Right.
You don't know you're deceived. So taking a First Amendment inalienable right of freedom of speech that requires personal responsibility and an understanding of the principles of liberty and redefining it and calling it free speech. Doesn't that sound a lot the same?
It does.
But in reality, free speech is I can say whatever I want to say without any consequences, whether it's true or not. See, we have slander laws that are to protect a person from from being unrighteously spoken against.
So, Doctor, when someone is slandering you or someone is saying things about you that is absolutely beyond the pale, they're exercising free speech, but not freedom of speech. They're polluting the pool when they do that. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, and there's consequences. See, every word has a definition built into it. In other words, every definition has a destination built into it. So if we don't look at the consequences of what are we building, it's like the idea of community organizers and the social engineers coming in and destroying a town. But no one stops to say, what are we building? And freedom of speech is based on the idea that ideas and words are building blocks of culture, and you have to care what you're going to get on the other end. In free speech, we just say or do anything we want to do without any thought of what are we destroying, and we don't even think about building.
And I want to put a pin right there, folks, and I want you to think about what is going on in our nation right now. You have a president who is under siege by a news media who is not exercising freedom of speech. They are exercising free speech by saying things that are unsubstantiated and irresponsible. Doctor, that's exactly why I wanted you on today, to make that distinction of free speech versus freedom of speech. There is a difference. And you're saying that it is a social engineering that's taking place there as well. And, Doc, we have about a minute, Ruben, about a minute before we break, so I want to have you back through the break. So go ahead and start telling us about the social engineering.
Okay. One of the things you have to think about is, does engineering just happen? Isn't engineering a plan? So social engineers have a planned system. It has methodologies. It has steps. And it uses political correctness and this dialectic process to, first of all, identify areas of discontent. This is why the masses have to be told all the things they don't have. They're in the richest country in the world, but they're constantly kept in a state of discontent because happy people don't riot and unhappy people follow tyrants.
Wow. Wow. Folks, write that down. Happy people don't riot, but discontented people, hey, they purposely want to burn things down because they are programmed to think that they are unhappy. I'm going to be back with this wealth of knowledge, so clear and concise. Dr. Macmillan, when I return. I'm CL.
Broadcasting from the Bayou State and all around the Gulf Coast and streaming nationwide. This is the C.L. Bryant Show.
It is I, your native son, CL, back with you on this Thursday here in the jeweled cities of the Arklatex, Shreveport, and Bossier. I want to thank you folks in North Carolina as well as in southern Arkansas and East Texas, and all of you who may be listening to the show on the free C.L. Bryant Show app, the C.L. Bryant Show app. Download it in your app store on your iPhone or Android device. My guest is back by popular demand, Dr. Marlene McMillan. And if you want to get a hold of her thoughts and her work, go to whylibertymatters.com. whylibertymatters.com. Now, our nation has been a nation of prosperity. We have been perhaps the most prosperous nation the world has ever known. Dr. McMillan, I am seeing that you correlate a direct connection between liberty and prosperity. Tell us about it.
Absolutely. Prosperity is the result of liberty. Prosperity is kind of like happiness. If you keep looking for it, you can look and look and look, and you won't find it. But if you focus on joy and blessing and goodness and all of the values that give stability to your life, all of a sudden you'll find that joy. And so with prosperity is the result of fixed principles that lead to liberty. So I have a book called 5 Pillars of Liberty where I actually teach what are those principles. They're not mysterious, but they are fixed. And you have to understand them because tyrants despise liberty.
Tyrants despise liberty. Folks, don't forget that. Tyrants despise liberty. Go ahead, Doctor.
Okay, now, at Why Liberty Matters, we have also a YouTube channel. And there is an overview of the dialectic process. We don't have time for me to teach all of this, obviously, in this quick show. But what I want people to see is if you want prosperity, then you have to plant the seeds that lead to liberty in your culture. Now, there's a method, there's a language and method that leads to liberty. And there's a totally different language and method that leads to bondage and tyranny. Our education system, even the way many of our churches are ran, the way our whole culture is geared, especially through arts and media, sets up a result of bondage and tyranny, but gives the illusion of freedom, because the best way to keep someone a slave is to make them think they are free.
Oh, wow. Wow. Doc, see, this is why you and I, we hit it off so there when we met in Texas. It's been several weeks ago now. And I was there signing some runaway slave movies for folks. And Doc came up to me. In fact, I have 2 of your works at my home right now. And I have to tell you, it was just something about what you were saying to me that just absolutely resonated. And Jane and I, I've told you this, Doctor. Jane and I, we talked about it on the way home. And I was saying to her that I had to get you on the show, and I am so glad that I did. I want to revisit something that we talked about the other evening, and I could spend several hours talking to you, but you hit upon it in our initial conversation tonight, and you have a caveat, I guess would say, change the language, change the culture. Do we see that even when we're talking about the Defense of Marriage Act and those types of things? Is the language being changed in order to change the way we look at the culture, even in something like that?
Everywhere. Political correctness is used as a way to determine how compliant someone is. It's used as a way to determine what stage of this dialectic process, how far along in the process they are. Because people who are relativists see the world as a continuum. They see everything as relative in relation to something else, not in relation to a fixed reference point. So in order to redefine marriage, redefine family, redefine maleness, femaleness, or whatever, then they redefine the language. And if you hear some of these people talk, you're hearing it. One of my friends that studied with me for a long time, he kind of shakes his head and he says, it sounds like English.
And it does. It really does. The family sounds like, hey, that family's family. Anybody can have a family, but that's a redefinition of what that is.
Exactly. And so, see, a lot of how the culture has been destroyed and lost is through language. And instead of, I love the Save the Country organizations, and they're my friends, and I love all these people. But many times they're talking about radical steps that are totally unnecessary if all we do is pay attention to the language and refuse to speak politically correct. That it is okay to use the term manhood. It is okay to use the term mankind. What an idea.
Yeah, wow.
And so, if we just stop speaking politically correct, then you're saying, I'm not going along with your social agenda that will destroy, as you said in your opening, the most prosperous country that's ever existed.
Absolutely, Doc. I want you to stay with me one more break. I want you to stay with me. There's one other area of your expertise that I want to have examined before we say goodnight. Dr. Marlene McMillan is my special guest tonight. Coming up, Raymond Cruz at the top of the hour. I'm CL. Don't go away.
Well, we got no choice. All the girls and boys making all that noise 'cause they found new toys. Well, we can't salute ya, can't find a flag. If that don't suit ya, that's a drag. School's out for summer.
CL. Back with Dr. Marlene McMillan. You can look her up, find out what she's about, and look at her work at whylibertymatters.com, whylibertymatters.com. Dr. McMillan, in these closing moments of our time together tonight, and believe me, you're going to be back with me. I certainly trust that God will allow that to be so. I wanted to get your take on a word that seems to be so right when it rolls off of the American tongue, and that is social justice. But what I have seen, is that too many government programs, including welfare programs, have come from that, and people who, like myself, oppose over-aggressive welfare programs are many times called incompassionate. Deal with that for us. Do I not have compassion because I am not all in favor of helping everyone with their handout?
Okay. Now, I actually got to present a paper at a law school about this subject. I was the token, and literally the token, conservative person that they brought for this big conference on social justice.
You were the token conservative.
Yes.
Okay.
And the third-year law students that understood what I was saying, they basically said, we have never met anybody like you, and they were they confided in me that they had never heard the arguments that I brought forward.
No.
And one of the key arguments I brought forward is, in order to have justice, you have to have justice not only to the recipient, but you have to have justice at the source. So there's a book called The Law by Bastiat, little 87-page book. All of our listeners can get it and read it quickly. The Law is the whole title of the book, written over 150 years ago, and yet you could be sure Bastiat read this morning's paper about social justice and wrote the book. And in this book, he explains the evils of legalized plunder. Now, one of the biggest problems with social justice is that the source of the funds are plundered from another man's labor.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow. So in order, folks, I don't want you to miss this. In order to have justice, you must not only deal with the idea of the recipient, the person who's receiving the social justice, but you also must look at the source of the funding for that social justice. Continue, Doctor.
Okay, so if that money, see, how you have dignity as a person is by having respect of your conscience and also being allowed to keep the fruit of your labor. Part of your conscience is how you spend your labor. You exchange your knowledge, your time, your labor for money, and then you take that money and you exchange that for whatever is of value to you. One guy's going to go buy a new bling for his motorcycle, and the other one of the same age is going to go buy diapers.
Right.
Because their circumstances are different.
Right.
Okay? But they have to have dignity in making that choice. For it to be justice, there has to be a system where the source of the funds are not plundered. Because if we can plunder one end and not the other, and then we have breached the dignity of one segment of society to supposedly improve the dignity of another.
And then we arrive, Doctor, then that is how, so Americans can see, wherever you're listening from in the United States, Americans can see that if one side, and that's usually the source side, is plundered, then the justice that has provided for the recipient, that can't last very long if it's continually plundered. Is Venezuela or places like that examples of it being plundered?
And then the other thing you get into is the redefinition of the word justice. See, in true justice, everyone is treated equally under the law. So if we're giving special privilege to one group and not another, then liberty, the very essence of liberty is being destroyed. So when we're told, well, that there's this special interest group here and that special interest group, and we have this Marxist construct that pits the rich against the poor, the conservative against the liberal, all of those are artificial, destructive ideas.
Wow.
And when those ideas are brought forth, then this pitting of one group against another divides liberty. And as soon as liberty is divided, as soon as one group's rights can be plundered at the expense of another, you have tyranny, you do not have liberty.
That is absolutely awesome. And it is profound because you are speaking within the confines of the genius that founded the documents and wrote the documents of this nation. You're speaking within those confines, and all of it is contained within our Judeo-Christian principles. And I will have you back real soon. Go to Why Liberty Matters, whylibertymatters.com, and get some of the teachings and thoughts of Dr. Marlene McMillan. Always, these last couple of times that you've been on with me have actually helped me to grow, and I certainly do appreciate that. And God bless you. God keep you, Dr. McMillan, and I look forward to the next time that we talk.
Many blessings, and blessings to all the listeners. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm CL. That was Dr. Marlene McMillan. whylibertymatters.com. whylibertymatters.com. I'm CL. I'm going to be back with Louisiana Representative, House of Representatives Raymond Cruz when I return. CL, back with you on this Thursday, gateway to the weekend. Tomorrow, yeah, it is Friday. And folks, I have told you, I've got to go out to West Virginia over the weekend and talk about some of these regulations that that have been on the books. Coming up with us will be newly elected Louisiana State Representative Raymond Cruz. He's going to be on with us here shortly, and just on with us was Dr. Marlene McMillan, and she, hey folks, I am telling you, she is a rock star when it comes to defining what we are about as Americans according to our own documents. Joining me now is Louisiana House of Representatives, a star from our own area, the Arklatex, the jewel cities of the Arklatex, Shreveport and Bossier. My good friend, Ray Cruz, welcome back to the C.L. Bryant Show. How are you, brother?
Hey, CL, thank you so much. It's just a pleasure to listen to you. I was listening to that radio app. I'm on the road, of course, coming back from session.
Great.
And I was truly blessed by hearing Dr. McMillan, and I'd gladly cede my time to listen to her some more. It was just fascinating.
Isn't she something? She is just out of sight. And
That was fantastic.
Ray, I really thank you for that. But I want to talk to you. I understand that maybe you were able to entertain some arguments or hear some arguments yesterday in your committee on the state of Louisiana attitude toward the death penalty. What came of that? How's that panning out?
Well, I tell you, the attempt to eliminate the death penalty from the state of Louisiana was narrowly defeated. It was a 9-8 vote. It did not leave the committee. It was actually a surprise to many. But the discussion you just had shines a light on that. Dr. McMillan said tyranny results without justice.
Yes, sir.
And she also commented that justice at the recipient has to be balanced with justice at the source. And that was, I think, pivotal, a very important remark, because there were arguments made against the cost of having the death penalty in Louisiana.
Yeah.
There were arguments made about recidivism. Does it really help? Does it deter murder throughout the state? All those arguments were made, but it comes down to justice. Is it right to be able to take one life without the possibility of losing your own?
Exactly. And that, in my estimation, Ray, is the that's where the deterrent actually lie. I remember so clearly when my father and I we love westerns, we love old army movies and that type of thing. But it is so clear that when swift and sure justice did prevail, the crime rate was lower. I mean, it's just common sense, and that's what I feel that you're fighting for.
And that was one of the points that a member of the committee made also, is the problem with the death penalty is it's not swiftly administered. People languish for 10, 15, 20 years before the penalty is exercised, and by that time, most of the population's forgot the heinousness of the crime.
Right. And we do tend to move on, and in that moving on, justice sometimes is lost because we're saying, why kill him now? That's exactly what happens. Now, there was a rebuttal that you did to a writing of this new social gospel law professor. Her name is Susan Hamill. And the Law Journal of Accounting, Ethics, and Public Policy published this. And Ray, I want you to share with us what this was about, your refutation of the new social gospel of this particular professor. What is the new social gospel?
Well, I tell you, first of all, I'd love to say the refutation was mine, but everything I've learned is largely due to other people's examination of truth. And I examine that in the light of the Bible, of course, and God's Word, and see, does that make sense, what I'm hearing? And there was a guy I had read that had written 31 volumes talking about economics and taxation policy, and how that really refutes this new social gospel. And I actually thought that Dr. McMillan, covered that very well. Liberty is being taken away because of this redefining of words, and that social gospel is advancing, trying to tell us that society, we individually, are all responsible for every injustice on anyone else, whether it's purposeful or accidental.
Wow. Wow. And you know what, Raymond? Absolutely. Absolutely. I know that you're fighting the good fight. And, man, we're just so proud of you. And you're doing a fantastic job down there. I want to have you on at least, we got to have you on at least twice a month and so forth, so you can bring us up to speed on what's going on. It sounds like you're on the road, so you be very careful on the road, whichever direction you're traveling, north or south at this point in time, or east or west. And so God bless you. God keep you, Raymond Cruz. I'm going to give you the last word. You got about a minute and a half, whatever you want to say.
Hey, real quick, I just wanted to mention, a lot of times in the news, you hear news about legislators that make, the wrong vote. They're going the wrong way. But I want to draw some attention to those people that are standing up for the conservative values. And I encourage everybody to look at those roll call of votes and see your legislators from North Louisiana largely are following those conservative values. And I want to draw attention to them. Look that up and see your legislator, and you can see one of them.
Broke up on me, Ray. If you can hear me, you broke up on me in that last statement, but I know exactly what he was saying. That was Raymond Cruz from our own Bossier City, District 8, and he is fighting the good fight, and he is telling you to make sure that you pay attention to how your North Louisiana legislators are voting. They are voting down the line the conservative values. And that was Raymond Cruz. Travel safe, Ray. I'm CL. We'll be right back.
He was a hard-headed man. He was brutally handsome. And she was terminally pretty. She held him up, and he held up for ransom.
Broadcasting from the Bayou State and all around the Gulf Coast and streaming nationwide. This is the C.L. Bryant Show.
CL, live with you on this gateway day to the weekend. It is Thursday, and I certainly hope that you are making it through okay. 320-5335-318, 320-5335. We're opening up the lines for a few phone calls on this home stretch of the C.L. Bryant Show. I'll go, Ruben, to Robert. Robert, thank you for listening. Thank you for calling. What's on your mind, friend?
Well, I called to talk about a meeting that's coming up this weekend.
All right.
The Louisiana Republican State Central Committee is meeting
All right.
Saturday.
All right.
And I represent South Bossier City on the Republican State Central Committee. And most people don't know what it is. It's kind of like the state legislature, but for the Republican Party. We elect the state leadership, and then we vote. We have meetings every quarter to decide policies and procedures for the State Central Committee. Now, this particular weekend, our big issue, if it gets to the floor, will be trying to put a procedure together so that people that, like David Duke and other people that aren't Republicans, will have a way to say, no, you can't run as a Republican. But it's kind of a complicated issue that we've got to work out so that it's fair to everybody and it'll pass court muster.
Robert, let me ask you this.
Yes,
are people really... they should really, folks, I encourage you to go to these types of meetings. You see, this is where your democracy and your republic lives. It lives in meetings like these. Robert, when is that? Where is that?
It will be at the old State Capitol building in Baton Rouge. The Central Committee meeting starts itself at 10 o'clock, and there'll be some committee meetings tomorrow night. There's Rules Committee meeting and some other meetings. There'll be some Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. But the business of the Central Committee itself will start about 10 o'clock on Saturday morning. And, we'll be discussing issues. There'll be a few vacancies we have to fill, and there's other issues that might come up from committees. But, again, and this is where the grassroots of the Republican State Party begins, because the members of the State Central Committee elect the state leadership,
yeah.
And then three of those members, the national committee, the chairman, the national committee man, the national committee woman, are members of the Republican National Committee, and those guys then elect the national leadership, which guides the state party itself. And
now, if a Republican from North Louisiana wants to come down and be in this meeting, they can do that. Is
absolutely.
You see, and folks, listen, North Louisianians, especially you folks from up here in the Jewel cities, Shreveport and Bossier, of the Arklatex, and even those of you listening across the country, you make sure that you participate in these types of meetings. Represent your area. You heard Ray Cruz on with us just a little bit ago, and he wanted to make sure that we North Louisianians understood something, that the North Louisiana legislators that we have sent to Baton Rouge, they are voting your will down there in Baton Rouge. He wanted to make sure that you knew that they were doing that. And, Robert, tell the folks again why this is important.
Well, this is the group that decides the direction of the Republican State Party, and the Democratic Party has the same thing. All the major parties have, similar bodies that decide the leadership and the general direction of the parties. And it again, it's an election. The last election was March a year or so ago. That's when I got elected. I served on the committee the late 80s and the 90s, and then I came back on the committee just about a year or so ago. But again, this is where, people, if they're concerned about what's going on in our party, you can find your member, or, I live in South Bossier. I represent South Bossier City, but, I consider I represent everybody, because,
right.
Because I take ideas from anywhere. It doesn't just have to be from South Bossier City.
Absolutely right. Let me ask you this, Robert, and I got about a minute left.
And I'd like to touch one more subject.
One thing, go quickly. Go ahead.
Are you getting fed up with the media in the Democratic Party that are just trying to create an issue with Donald Trump.
Oh,
They want to
man.
talk about impeaching Donald Trump. Well, why don't we? I'm glad they did a special prosecutor so they can put this stuff to bed. But why not a special prosecutor to investigate the Obama administration and the Hillary Clinton, the Secretary of State? I mean, we could spend the next 4 years finding stuff about them and not exhaust it.
Oh, absolutely.
But they're trying to just create this, thing about, we need to impeach him. We need to. That's
I opened the
grief.
show. I opened the show with that very thought, Robert. In fact, I opened the show by thanking them for refocusing the president on taking care of business, because he's definitely refocused now. And Robert, I thank them because Hillary Clinton very well could be indicted after all of this if they want to play it this way. We had let her go.
It sounds like you've covered that. So
we had let her
back
go.
On,
we had let her
Saturday
go.
morning at 10 o'clock in Baton Rouge at the old Capitol building, the meeting will take place, and people can find out who their members are various ways.
Absolutely.
So
thank you,
anyway,
man. God bless you,
CL.
and God
Appreciate
keep
what
you.
do.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'll be right back. This is the C.L. Bryant Show.
I found my mind in a brown paper bag, but then I tripped on a cloud and fell 8 miles high. I tore my mind on a jagged sky. I just dropped in to see what condition my condition was in. Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, what condition my condition was in.
CL. Back with you here on the home stretch of the CL Bryant Show on this gateway day to the weekend. I certainly hope you're planning a safe weekend. I tell you again, I'll be up in West Virginia. Need your prayers while I'm on the road. And there are people out there. It's perilous times out there. And so need your prayers. Pray for all of our elected officials and pray for our president, who will be taking his first state trip out of the country. He'll be visiting Israel. Also others in the Middle East, and certainly want to pray for his safety. And I do believe, for those of you who didn't hear me say it at the top of the show when I opened the show, I do believe that he will emerge. DJT, I'm talking about, Donald J. Trump. I believe he will emerge from this foolishness that is surrounding him right now, a better, more effective, and stronger president. I want to thank the progressive liberals. I want to thank the Democrat Party, because I do believe that they are making him right now, with all of this stupidity that they are launching at this president, they are actually building a better, stronger president. They are actually allowing us as American citizens to see through them. For me, it has been like tissue paper for a long time. But for some Americans who have not been able to see through this progressive liberal ploy, it is so apparent just how transparent you are. It is so apparent just how petty you are. And I want to thank you for making this business-minded president refocus on those items that caused him to be elected to begin with. And that is putting America first. That is making our nation great again by tax reform, by health care reform, by opening up the pipelines, by securing our borders. Thanks to you, you have refocused him. I saw it as clearly as I see daylight, that you have caused him to refocus. As he was standing there with President Santos from Colombia today, you could tell that he was refocused. And also, there's another person that I think will be thanking you, or at least she will have you to thank. If, for some reason, Hillary Clinton gets herself indicted after all this, along with her friend Susan Rice, Valerie Jarrett, and, of course, the master of ceremonies for the last 8 years, and now retired as a retired president, Barack Obama. If, for some reason, there are new investigations into their activities during their stay in Washington, D.C., they have you, progressive liberal Democrats, to thank for those indictments. Because even though there has not been one smidgen of evidence of any wrongdoing of Donald J. Trump, President Donald J. Trump, there has not been one smidgen of evidence of him doing anything wrong in the last 150 days, not quite 150 days of his administration. I am certain that if we began to truly turn over the rocks, as you want to do with this special investigator, this prosecutor that you have launched and set on the current president, if we truly want to examine the inequities and the law breaking that happened in the past 8 years, Hillary Clinton, Valerie Jarrett, Susan Rice, and Barack Obama have you to thank for it. And we want to thank you for refocusing and redirecting our president, this president, toward being the best president that he can be. because he's done nothing wrong. There is no there, and there is no is. It's only you barking up the wrong tree. But thank you, because all of the things that you did in the dark are now fair game for us to bring to the light. We had let you go. We had let it go. We were going to leave Hillary alone. We were going to leave Valerie Jarrett alone. But thanks to you, we need to look at that again. Anyone out there who's tired of these progressive liberals playing this stupid game, let's see to it that we turn those rocks over. Thank you, you progressive liberals, for bringing it so crystal clear of what we need to do. I'm CL. We'll be back.
If you had not have fallen, then I would not have found you. Angel flying too close ground. And I patched up your broken will.
As an old musician, I encourage you to listen to that song. There is a portion in there where there's just good music, just good musicians. And the closing song by D-Rock is just out of sight. One of my favorite songs. Actually, there's two of my favorite all-time songs right there. The Uniform and Angel Flying Too Close to the Ground. Well, folks, the question that I'll leave you with is, what are you prepared to do? What are you prepared to do? As our country in so many ways is teetering, reeling toward the, descending into hell politically. Preachers are preaching, trying to revive it spiritually. There needs to be revival in this country. There's no doubt about that. Come on out to Word of God, by the way, Word of God Ministries on Sundays if you get a chance. And then Wednesday nights, I'm going to have to make a way to get out there myself on Wednesday nights because I hear things are off the chain out there. Come on out to Word of God Ministries. My pastor, Pastor James A. McManus, is doing the Lord's work here on earth. Come on out and visit with us. Also, folks, that leads me to think about this as we look at our country. Physician, heal yourself, heal thyself. Luke 4:23, I think that's where it comes from. When I think about the progressive liberals, I think about them. If their medicine is so good, then why don't they take it too? They just want you to take it, If their medicine is so good, why don't they? No, they just want you to take it. Nancy Pelosi does not take the medicine she prescribes for America. She doesn't. Neither does Harry Reid or Al Green from Texas, that idiot who stood up yesterday talking about he wants to impeach the president. Please, Al. You're making yourself look stupid. And I hate to see that of you. And just grandstanding and wanting to grab the spotlight. It was stupid. We are in the grips of anarchy, and we do need to ask ourselves that question. What are we prepared to do? Law and order is in order. So let us march toward securing that. I want to thank God for bringing us to the close of yet another day, and I want to thank Him for our men and women in uniform around the globe who defend our right to speak our minds. And until I'm able to talk to you again, I'm CL, and may God bless and keep you all.
We'll stand by your side, and the